Our musical guest today, Glen Ackerman, is a Houston area bassist, composer, and educator. He's the band leader for his own fusion jazz quartet, although I only see two. I don't see four here, but you know. He's played for us before. His music is awesome, so I'm glad he's back. So anyway, let's start with a couple of songs from Glen and Company.
Thank you. So my name's Will, and I am here to give a quick 10-minute talk on this project that I have been working on for a while with some help from the other leaders of the secular communities here in the greater Houston area. It's called Secular Houston, and that is the logo up there. It started off as a Facebook page, but now we have a website which has gone live, I think within about a month ago. So you definitely have my permission to look up the Facebook page or website. It's pretty slick. My intent was, at least in the beginning, twofold. The initial reason for this website was to kind of bind all the secular groups in the greater Houston area together. So it's informational. If you go to the website, secularhouston.org or secularhouston.com, they both go to the same place. You'll see a calendar. Just kind of scroll down just a tad, and the calendar is pretty prominent up front. It has all the happenings of the secular groups in the greater Houston area. So Humanists of Houston, Houston Oasis, Houston Atheists, they kind of don't want their stuff out there so much, but again, they're kind of on board with some of their other things that they do. Galveston Bay Oasis, even Secular Student Alliance, I'm trying to get them into this, the calendar. But anyone that comes in, you'll know the happenings of secular groups in the greater Houston area. So real quick, I just want you all to understand, I'm up here on my own behalf and not on behalf of Houston Oasis. I'm representing myself and not Houston Oasis, which I am on the board of. So now that that's out of the way, informational. So as new people tick into this world, I envision them kind of stopping here first and seeing what's going on in the secular world with the calendar, which is updated pretty frequently. But it also has all the secular groups in the websites in the greater Houston area, so they can kind of check them out, see what their flavor is If they want a community, they can figure out which one they like, and they can gravitate toward that one or jump between all of them, whatever that person wants to do. But as well as all the local groups, there's also national groups that would share our mindset. So American Atheists, Black Non-Believers, Secular Coalition of Texas. There's a long list of organizations, so there will be links to them as well. So everything kind of secular in the greater Houston area. So that's a short-term, kind of easier thing I wanted to do with this website. More of a long-term goal of mine is to have a political arm to this website. Again, this is where I stray from Houston Oasis, because the 501c3 does limit things we can do politically, but I want this to be an avenue for secular political activism if you so desire to get involved. And there are many ways that you can get involved, and this is a way to scratch that itch, if you will. And nationwide, there is a trend for secular political activism to move forward. It's kind of spotty, but it's there. Houston does not have a cohesive secular political voice, and I aim to change that. And again, this is kind of a long-term project, but I envision assembling an army of sorts, if you will, and sitting down in front of elected politicians, letting them know what our concerns are, letting them know that we exist, and letting them know that we're watching, that we care about local politics, we care about local morality, really. So that's my goal. Ultimately, I would love for one or more of us to run for office. And I think that's really politically just intense. But that would really get the word out with the secular voice in the greater Houston area. Now, political involvement can mean all kinds of things. It could just mean joining the page. It could mean just watching what we do, just caring. I mean, that's political involvement, just caring about the goings-on in your local area politically. There are different layers. You can start writing postcards for candidates that you agree with. You can donate your time. You can donate your money to these candidates. And ultimately, you can start going out and knocking on doors, getting people to get out and vote. It's not as scary as it seems. I hate inconveniencing people, but I've learned to embrace it. I've learned to love it because it's really potent what you can do, this door knocking. This is all, what I'm talking about is grassroots political activism, and that's how change happens. And it's fulfilling. Again, I didn't think I'd like it as much as I did, but I do, especially when you believe in the candidates and you believe that you are making your local world a better place. So again, that's the kind of more advanced things you can do. But when I started getting into this world about 2016, I mean, I knew nothing. I'm a physician, science. I followed politics, but I didn't get involved. But after that election, I did. I kind of slowly but surely started learning what to do in this world. And I've done a lot of work. I know people in this world that know a lot about what to do. So it's scary, it's uncomfortable. But if you want to get involved, we can plug you into a place where you can find that comfort and actually make a difference. Be part of a movement. I hate the word army, but I'll use it because it's easy. Be part of an army that moves us forward and gets our voice out there. Eventually, politicians, Houston area will know that there is a secular voice out there, that we care, and one of us may be mayor one of these days. So we've done the work. Come in. You can ask questions. Again, this is grassroots, so it's all going to be just people in a room, markers and poster boards and pizza and all kinds of goodies. But again, as long as we're moving forward, this is what I envision. For instance, did you know that this year in the Houston area, HISD, there are elections this November. Early voting starts in about 2 or 3 weeks, October 18th. And election day is November 2nd. HISD, the school board, has 9, they call them trustees, so it's 9 members of the school board. 5 of them are up for election. 5 of those positions are up for election this year in November, on November 2nd. So if you tick into this website, you'll know, oh man, yeah, there's elections this year. I've done the work. I think we all agree on our mindset. We want to help LGBTQ issues. We want better gun control. We want separation of state and church. We jive on a lot of things, our mindset. So people like me have done some work and say, okay, this candidate, this is who you should vote for. And I'm not here saying, oh, you should vote for this and this, but I know it's a lot of work to kind of sift through all these candidates. I get it. But we've done the work. So if you kind of believe in what we do, hey, if you're in District 1, vote for this candidate. If you're in District 7, vote for this candidate. We'll put it out there. We'll get it out there for you so that it's easier to make decisions, but make it as a group. I'm kind of looking forward to next year. Next year there's going to be some big elections. It's going to be super busy, the midterms coming up. So I'm kind of preparing for that. This is what's happening this year with the HISD elections. It's a little bit easier, but it's a way to get started and get our chops up, assemble an army, and be in good shape for next year, which is going to be exciting. So I in no way made this website, I'm going to call it a group, but it's not a group yet, but I'm in no way trying to, like, one ring to bind them all and take over the groups. Absolutely not. This is all informational. This is to bind the groups together. And as more people come in, our secular community just gets larger, and this is what we need. We need to take a breath after this pandemic with a mask and regroup and start to grow our numbers and move forward. So that is my intent with this website. So follow the website. We're on Facebook. We're on the Twitter, actually. So I update it regularly. The last thing I want to say is that we need people. I need help. We need help to get this going, whether it's social media, whether it's delegating different parts of different issues we want to tackle. It's a grassroots, and grassroots needs a lot of roots. And so if you want to get involved, let me know in the break. Send me a message. I won't take any questions now, but I'll be here. I'll be answering questions all day, all week, all year. So you know where to find me. And that's it. Good luck. Thank you, everybody.
So I am an intuitive eating counselor. The initials behind my name, I am a certified personal trainer with the National Academy of Sports Medicine. I'm also a corrective exercise specialist and a fitness nutrition specialist. So I'm a nutritionist, but not a dietitian. So there's a difference between the two. When I talk today about intuitive eating and health at every size, what I'd like for you to think about are 2 of the core values that define Houston Oasis. The 2 being people are more important than beliefs, and be accepting and be accepted. So consider that while I'm talking about this today, because some of the things that I talk about may bring up some emotion in you that might be a little unexpected, especially when we start talking about fat bias. And so just kind of be open to what I have to say. Let's put on our scout mindset, you know, the book that people are reading in the book club right now, and consider that as I go forward. What is intuitive eating? Intuitive eating is a self-care eating framework. It integrates instinct, emotion, and rational thought. It is comprised of 10 principles and was created by 2 dietitians, Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch, in 1995. Intuitive eating is a weight-inclusive, evidence-based model with a validated assessment scale and over 100 studies to date. What is not intuitive eating? Intuitive eating is not a diet or food plan, period. There is no pass or fail, therefore there's no blowing it. Rather, it's a journey of self-discovery and connection to the needs of your mind and body. There's nothing to count. This includes no counting of calories, carbs, points, or macros. So if you came today thinking, oh, this is so great, someone's going to talk to me finally about what I can do to get my weight under control, or she's going to have the secret, or she's going to finally have the latest thing that's going to do it for me. That's not what I'm here to do today. So kind of let you sit with that for a moment. But I would like to talk about is my journey. So I used to live in a larger body. Some people now like to use the term fat and reclaim that word. In our society, there's been a lot of reclaiming of words with groups. And so some people do prefer to refer to themselves as fat. So if I use that term today, please know that I'm not using that as a demeaning term, but yet as a reclaimed term for people in larger bodies that do prefer to use that term. So when I was living in a fat body, I do know what it's like to experience fat bias and to feel discrimination based on my appearance. So I am also speaking from experience. A lot of times you will see before and after pictures of people that have been on diets or exercise programs, but they rarely talk about the after of the after, right? So I want to talk about the after of the after. So in this picture of me on the right was my before, about 100 pounds more than what I weigh now, and then my after on the left. But the girl on the left, while she does appear to be someone that society would consider healthy and fit, this was a person with disordered eating, borderline eating disorder. So a panel of experts convened by the National Institutes of Health determined that 1/3 to 2/3 of the weight is regained within 1 year after weight loss, and almost all is regained within 5 years. So of the 3 to 5% of the population that are successful keeping the weight they lost off, it is believed that at least half develop an eating disorder or disordered eating. And that was the group that I fell into. So for me, intuitive eating and finding a way to live in a healthy body, eating intuitively was fantastic for me because it got me away from the habits that I had developed, that I had clung on to believe that I had to look a certain way to be accepted by society. So what is disordered eating? The National Eating Disorders Collaboration of Australia's definition. Disordered eating sits on a spectrum between normal eating and an eating disorder and may include symptoms and behaviors of eating disorders, but at a lesser frequency or lower level of severity. Disordered eating may include restrictive eating, compulsive eating, or irregular or inflexible eating patterns. Dieting is one of the most common forms of disordered eating. So there's other behaviors that may be present when you're engaging in disordered eating, like fasting, binge eating, skipping meals, avoiding a type or a food group, where you become orthorexic, you're only going to eat this organic thing, or I can't eat this food, or I can only eat this food, self-induced vomiting, laxative use, enema misuse, steroid and creatine use, diet pills, and while not related, over-exercise can also be included, and that was also a category that I fell into. When I discovered fitness, and as I started losing weight and changing my body, I got so much praise from people saying, wow, you look great. So of course I started thinking, I need to keep doing this because I'm not gonna be loved anymore. I'm not gonna be liked anymore. I'm not gonna be praised anymore if I cannot force my body to be this way. Now at this point in my life, I ended up developing an autoimmune condition. Now, did that come from the overuse, the over-exercise, the misuse of drugs, the restriction of food? Could be. I don't know for sure, but I sure would have liked to have gone back and lived my life without that, the amount of stress that I was bringing upon myself with all of the exercise and the desire to achieve a certain weight. So some of this graphic may be familiar to some of you. For people who have had a history of dieting, some of you may have started your first diet at 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. When you take that first diet, when someone tries their first diet, they lose a lot of weight and they're very successful. Typically the pattern is they come off the diet, they regain the weight back and often gain back more. I'll try it again. I'll try another diet. Maybe this one will work. They lose weight again, and what happens? They gain the weight back plus more. And if this is something cyclical, and this is someone who's in a larger body that's been struggling for a long time, some of my clients have a history of 15 to 20 diets, and their set point is way up here now after struggling to try to find the diet that's going to work for them. The problem is, the diet, if you purchase a diet, you don't get your money back. If you buy a TV and that TV fails, you can say, hey, you sold me a bad TV, you sold me a bad this, I want my money back. If a diet fails, guess who's blamed? You. But it's the diet that failed, it's not you. We still don't have a diet that is successful. Successful meaning a long-term weight loss, right? So that's part of the reason why I like to introduce intuitive eating. So there's 10 principles of intuitive eating. Intuitive eating works in two ways: cultivating attunement and removing the obstacles to attunement. For cultivating attunement, it's the ability to perceive bodily sensations. It's known as interoceptive awareness, which is critical for attunement, for like having a full bladder, feeling sleepy or hungry. Like sometimes when people find out that I'm in fitness or nutrition, they'll say, they just start talking to me automatically. Oh, well, I've been trying the intermittent fasting and it's so great. And sometimes I want to be like, yeah, I've been trying the no pee program. You know, like, it's like you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't, there's these other bodily signals we have, and when we have them, we respect them. Yet for some reason, we get pious if we feel like we can, you know, control this hunger, fullness sensation instead of listening to what our body needs. How do we remove obstacles to attunement, or what is that? So if you've repeatedly followed popular diet crazes, you may find yourself thinking you don't know how to eat anymore. Obstacles to interoceptive awareness usually originate in your mind in the form of thoughts, beliefs, and rules. What you should or shouldn't eat, beliefs about what a healthy body should look like, and judgmental thoughts about good food versus bad food. So there's 10 principles of intuitive eating. These 10 principles, again, were put together, developed by Elise Resch and her co-author, Evelyn Tribole. So principle 1, reject the diet mentality. Losing weight is not your life's purpose. Throw out the diet books and magazine articles that offer you the false hope of losing weight quickly, easily, and permanently. Get angry at diet culture that promotes weight loss and the lies that have led you to feel as if you were a failure every time a new diet stopped working and you gained all the weight back. Principle 2, honor your hunger. Hello, I'm hungry. Keep your body biologically fed with adequate energy and carbohydrates. Otherwise, you can trigger a primal drive to overeat. Once you reach the moment of excessive hunger, all intentions of moderate conscious eating are fleeting and irrelevant. Principle 3, make peace with food. Calories are energy, not the enemy. Call a truce, stop the fight. Give yourself unconditional permission to eat. If you tell yourself that you can't or shouldn't have a particular food, it can lead to intense feelings of deprivation that build into uncontrollable cravings and often binging. And for me with my clients, sometimes this is one of the hardest things to do in the 10 principles of intuitive eating, but there's a great, psychological effect that goes when you tell yourself, I have unconditional permission to eat anything, it takes the power away from the food. The food no longer has the desire anymore. When you can eat all the peanut M&Ms, do you really want all the peanut M&Ms? You know, for me, that was my hardest. I thought for 6 months, I'm never going to get tired of eating peanut M&Ms. That was the thing that I was like, am I ever going to get to this? But I did eventually. Principle 4, challenge the food police. Scream aloud no to thoughts in your head that declare you're good for eating minimal calories or bad because you ate a piece of chocolate cake. It becomes a pious thing. It becomes a moral. Why is food moral? Like, why have we assigned this morality to the way that we eat? Substitutes for a healthy diet: pasta, zucchini. Instead of chips, try carrots. Milk, coconut milk. Rice, cauliflower. Butter, sadness. Cheese, no. Tacos, this is stupid, I'm not doing it. Right? The police station is housed deep in your psyche, and its loudspeaker shouts negative, guilt-provoking indictments. Principle 5, discover the satisfaction factor. Did you know replacing your potato chips with grapefruit as a snack, you can lose up to 90% of what little joy you still have left in your life? In our compulsion to comply with diet culture, we often overlook one of the most basic gifts of existence, the pleasure and satisfaction that can be found in the eating experience. When you eat what you really want in an environment that is inviting, the pleasure you derive will be a powerful force in helping you feel satisfied and content. So again, we're looking for our hunger signals, we're looking for our fullness signals. So fullness signals, principle 6, feel your fullness. You know what's healthier than kale? Having a good relationship with food. In order to honor your fullness, you need to trust that you will give yourself the foods that you desire. Listen for the body signals that tell you that you are no longer hungry. Observe the signs that show that you're comfortably full. And there's a big difference between comfortably full and Thanksgiving full, right? Principle 7, cope with your emotions with kindness. Whatever happened today, you did your best. You made it through the day. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and let go. First, recognize that food restriction, both physically and mentally, can in and of itself trigger loss of control, which can feel like emotional eating. Find ways to comfort, nurture, distract, and resolve your issues. Anxiety, loneliness, boredom, and anger are all emotions we experience throughout life. Each has its own trigger, and each has its own appeasement. When I would work with clients, especially coming out of the pandemic, there was a lot of frustration over gaining 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds during the pandemic. We're still in the pandemic, but especially when we were shut down. And I said, be thankful that your brain chose food to deal with your stress. There are some other choices you could have made that would have been much worse. So be glad that it was food. And be glad that you had the opportunity to go, that you had food, right? Principle 8, respect your body. I love this. The idea that the ideal beach body just means being thin or buff is so unimaginative. Surely the ideal beach body would have a powerful lobster claw, arm flaps to act as a windbreaker, and a sand repellent anus. That's the ideal beach body, right? So accept your genetic blueprint. Just as a person with a shoe size of 8 would not expect to realistically squeeze into a size 6. It is equally futile and uncomfortable to have a similar expectation about body size. But mostly, respect your body so you can feel better about who you are. All bodies deserve dignity. Principle 9, one of my favorite, movement. Feel the difference. Forget militant exercise, just get active and feel the difference. Shift your focus to how it feels to move your body rather than the calorie-burning effects of exercise. So reasons to exercise that have nothing to do with weight loss. Makes you smarter. You want to be smart like Will? Exercise. Gives you energy. Makes you happy, decreases stress, helps you sleep, improves bone strength. So I am still a fitness instructor and a trainer. I'm very fortunate that I found exercise that I love. I look forward to exercising. And one of the things that I love to do with my clients is to explore different ways and help them find a movement that they enjoy. When you're going to do something that you look forward to doing, you're way more likely to do it than if you're going to do it because you have to, right? And then finally, principle 10, honor your health, gentle nutrition. So on the left, you see good foods. What are some good foods? Carrot, strawberry, hamburger, donut, pizza, broccoli. What are bad foods? Rotten or spoiled foods, food that you are allergic or intolerant to, food that is trying to rob a bank, food that calls you names at recess. Those are some bad foods. So make food choices that honor your health and taste buds while making you feel good. Remember, you don't have to eat perfectly to be healthy. You will not suddenly get a nutrient deficiency or become unhealthy from one snack, right? I'm asking the doctor in the room. One meal or one day of eating. It's what you eat consistently over time that matters. Progress, not perfection, is what counts. So when you think of intuitive eating, and when I'm showing this to you, again, coming from that scout mindset, consider all 10 principles. I'm not saying let's just go ahead and eat all of the donuts. And a lot of times intuitive eating over the past year or two in the media has been misrepresented that way. It's not about a free-for-all, right? We're still going to practice gentle nutrition. We're still going to encourage movement, joyful movement. Intuitive eating is a practice, not a diet. I just love this slide because of Bernie Sanders and this. I created a new diet where I wear winter gloves to make it hard to eat. I call it intermittent fasting. That's one of my favorite mitten jokes with Bernie. So like a musician, learning to play a musical instrument, you must practice if you want to become an intuitive eater. This is one of the hardest things about people that, the clients that I work with and people that are intuitive eaters or are embarking upon intuitive eating. It is so easy when someone tells you, here is your diet, here's what you do. You just follow the instructions. Now, willpower and sticking to it can be hard, but you don't have to put yourself into it. Intuitive eating, for example, if I gave you a guitar, if I gave you the chord chart, if I gave you the music, if I showed you where to put your hands, if we met together once a week and we practiced guitar together, would you still be able to come up here and play if that is all you did? No, you have to practice. So intuitive eating is one of the hardest programs I did as far as getting to a successful place for myself to be considered healthy, because I had the principles, but no outside instructions, no one telling me, this is what you have for breakfast, this is what you have for lunch, here's your snack, here's your dinner. Instead, I had to listen to my own body cues and really start to become in tune with my hunger, my fullness, and what my body needs, and let go of all of the rules at the same time, right? So it does take a lot of practice. Some of my clients have become successful intuitive eaters in as little as 6 months. Others are still working on it, and they're a couple of years into the process, but they're much happier than where they were when we first started. So I'd like to talk a little bit about self-compassion. If there were an 11th principle of intuitive eating, it would be self-care. Self-compassion, the gate to happiness is self-compassion. Cultivating a self-compassionate viewpoint is about looking at your situation with kindness. Why is self-compassion important? The benefits. So this is from the Harvard Health Publishing, Harvard Medical School, The Power of Self-Compassion. Self-compassion yields a number of benefits, including lower levels of anxiety and depression. Self-compassionate people recognize when they are suffering and are kind to themselves at these times, which reduces their anxiety and related depression. Practicing self-compassion. So what are some ways to practice? Use affirmations. Like to say to yourself, it's okay to make mistakes and forgive myself. I accept the best and worst aspects of who I am. I am free to let go of others' judgment. It's safe to show kindness to myself. How would you treat a friend or family member? So when someone tells me, oh, I hate that I did this, or oh, I look horrible in this, or oh, I feel this way. I'm like, would you say that to your daughter? Would you talk that way to your mother? Would you say this to your aunt, or your best friend? So talk to yourself the way you would talk to the people that you care for. Journal. There's different ways to journal. You can write. You can use a computer. You can do a voice journal, speaking journal, and then practice mindful meditation. So practicing mindfulness. So the other thing I like to talk about is health at every size. Health at every size is something that the authors of Intuitive Eating embrace. Health at Every Size, the first book was written by Linda Bacon, a PhD. So what is health at every size? Health at every size is an approach to public health that seeks to de-emphasize weight loss as a health goal and reduce stigma towards people who are overweight or obese. So the ASDAH, the Association for Size Diversity and Health at Every Size, they have 5 components of the health at every size that I just wanted to go through with you. The first one is weight inclusivity. Accept and respect the inherent diversity of body shapes and sizes and reject the idealizing or pathologizing of specific weights. Second, health enhancement. support health policies that improve and equalize access to information and services, and personal practices that improve human well-being, including attention to individual physical, economic, social, spiritual, emotional, and other needs. Third, respectful care. Acknowledge our biases and work to end weight discrimination, weight stigma, and weight bias. Fourth, eating for well-being. So putting the stress, promote flexible, individualized eating based on hunger, satiety, nutritional needs, and pleasure, rather than any externally regulated eating plan focused on weight control. And then fifth, life-enhancing movement, support physical activities that allow people of all sizes, abilities, and interests to engage in enjoyable movement to the degree that they choose. So how has media's portrayal of larger bodies affected your bias? This is something that I kind of wanted to bring into Houston Oasis and talk about. National news coverage of obesity and fat bodies on television and in documentaries. So some of you may remember back in the early 2000s, we started seeing these news documentaries, national news stories, and they would show people with their heads chopped off, and you would just see these large bodies walking around. So if you find that when you meet someone in a larger body or a fat body and you automatically have some assumptions about that person's lifestyle or who they are or what they are, remember that this is a bias that was created based on our culture and what we've been exposed to in our media, being told that it's wrong or that it's a disease or that that person deserved to be that way. The thing is that I want to share a story, an anecdote. Let me go ahead and go to this anecdote. I had a client, actually I still work with her, and we were at the time, it was before the pandemic, everybody was working in a small group in the gym, and she was going to go on vacation. And this is a woman that is so incredibly giving, so incredibly caring. You know, she's someone that everybody goes to, so kind. And she said, I just hope when I get on the plane that there's not someone fat coming down the aisle that's going to sit next to me. And at that moment, I just say, wait, we all need to just stop and talk for a minute. You know, are you better because you are this size? How do you know that that person is not running a marathon? Have you seen the people that have crossed the finish line at physical events? They are in all shapes and sizes. How do you know that the thin, acceptable body type the media has told us is good and healthy is not someone that has an incredibly fast metabolism, that they eat tons of junk, quote unquote, food, and they never exercise a day in their life? So you're going to treat that person better because of their appearance. And she was quite shocked, and she felt really bad for what I said, but here's the thing. Don't feel bad about it. You've been taught to think this way. So you just kind of have to unlearn it, all right? In 2010, Yale University hosted research on images used in news media, headed up by Rebecca Poole. She's done a bunch of research around weight stigma and anti-fat bias. They did a study with a neutral news story about obesity, and they showed two images. One leaned into the stereotypes that we've seen of, like, they'll show like someone slovenly dressed, eating fast food, you know, or they would show someone else in the same body size, cleanly dressed, neatly dressed, working at a computer in a professional environment. Those who viewed the negative images, the stereotypical images, reported higher levels of fat bias. And this wasn't correlated to income, age, race, or ethnicity or gender. The thinner you were, the more likely you were to express fat bias against fat people. So when you look at this image, what do you see? Kind of like think about what this invokes in you. And if you're finding some thoughts that you're not happy with, practice self-compassion. What does your own self-talk sound like? Approach others with love and kindness. Do your words and actions convey respect and caring? Educate yourself about body size and health. Size is not an indicator of health. I know people that are considered obese on the BMI scale, and they have incredible low blood pressure, great cholesterol levels. They don't have any issues with their blood sugar. And then there's the same as the reverse. I worked with a client that was shocked to find that her cholesterol levels were extremely high and her body fat was running at about 50%, but yet she was considered at the low end of a normal BMI. Stop fat shaming. You're not motivating anybody. You may be struggling to accept your own body. What is the most challenging part of that? So what I wanted to say, I wanted to read a little excerpt from a podcast that I love called Maintenance Phase. And this is by Aubrey Gordon and Michael Hobbs. And this particular episode that they put out is called The Obesity Epidemic. So I'm just going to kind of quote word for word what she said. She said, many people who don't have the experience of being perceived as fat tend to think, well, I don't mean fat people harm. I'm not going around yelling, hey, fatty, put down that burger. That is not actually how anti-fatness appears in many fat people's lives. It appears much more often. Family members saying things like, hey, do you want to work out, buddy? I'd be happy to pay for your Weight Watchers membership. How can I help? So those things are markers that someone is monitoring your body. So somebody's monitoring your body. That the size and shape of your body is wrong, that you are being judged, and that you need to take corrective action to get back into that person's good graces. One of the biggest things that stands out on the fat phobia scale and is correlated to other negative beliefs about fat people is the belief that fat people can control their body weight. If people believe that, then they tend to believe a bunch of other really horrific things about fat people. So until you know that person's story, until you've talked with them, you really don't know, right? There's a lot of people in larger bodies that cannot control their body size. Finally, I'd like to wrap up with body acceptance and body neutrality. Weight loss will not protect you from a negative body image. What is body neutrality? Body neutrality is the idea of accepting your body as it is in its current state. Unlike the body positivity movement, it does not need to involve self-love talk or mantras about body. Additionally, body neutrality encourages you to see your body as a functional vessel. So this is a little slide on body positivity versus body neutrality. Body positivity. All people should be able to love their bodies as they are, versus your appearance shouldn't determine your value. Or body positivity. Your body is beautiful regardless of what society says. I'm sure a lot of us have heard that before, like, you look great today, you're beautiful, da, da, da. Instead, let's focus more on body neutrality. Loving your body is hard, and that's okay. You don't have to love the way you look all the time. Again, your appearance does not determine your value. And in our society, unfortunately, that is very stressed. Helpful body neutral affirmations. So these are some things that you can say to help you achieve body neutrality. I am more than a body. And men, I'm sorry in the room, I didn't have any slides for guys, but this tends to focus a lot on women. So I am more than a body. I don't need to change my body. I don't need to love how I look all the time in order to feel good about myself. My happiness is not dependent on how attractive I am to others. My body will change many times throughout my life. I see some nods in the room, and guess what? That's okay. And the sooner you know that that's going to happen, the easier it's going to be, and the more you're going to enjoy your life, right? What happens at the end? We're all going to become ash, right? So how about we focus on who we are on the inside? My body is the least interesting thing about me. So I'd like to read an excerpt from this author's book really quick to finish this up, and I left my glasses over there. Hopefully I can read this. It's called Wave the White Flag, from the book To the Women by Donna Ashworth. So this image is an award-winning image, Feather and the Goddess Pool by Natalie Grano. So there is some mention of spirituality in this excerpt and souls, and I know that some of us consider that we don't have a soul in this room, so, just listen past that part. It's fine. Okay. There are many choices available to us women in this life, but when it comes to your body, there are only two. Accept it or don't. You see, if you choose to accept your body, you will soon start to love it, admire it, look after it. These things all follow in the wake of your acceptance. When you realize that this vessel for your soul, for your spirit, is an instrument of such high design and fine-tuning that it boggles the mind to even think about, you will enter into a phase which I like to call peace at last. You will care nothing of spare fat, gray hairs, loose skin. You will realize eventually that the body's purpose is not to look good, to attract friends, partners, successes. That it is, in fact, your spirit which does all of these things. If you would only allow it to shine through and work its magic. Your body, my friends, has but one job: to see you safely through this adventure of life, to allow your spirit to reach its potential. That is it. If you are on the path of not accepting your body, you are in for a very long battle against an enemy you have no power to defeat. Nature, time, biology, fate. You don't have the weapons to fight those powers. Wave the white flag. Give in, accept. It is then that your life will begin. Finally, I'd like to just end with this slide. Which bit would you alter first? The culture. Thank you very much for listening to me today and let me speak with you.